exchange company called Custarian.
Wow, wow. Thank you.
Hi there, James Rowland. I work at Refinitiv. I'm a digital performance director. I'm looking forward to hearing you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Shubham, you can start your turn.
Yeah.
Just a quick introduction.
Yeah. So I was actually waiting for rest of my team, but let's start up. I am Shubham Pal, part of HCL Technologies Strategy and Innovation team. And today we'll be having our Asda customers and also the directors, and also Venkat, who is already in the line, who is our actual delivery director. And also we'll be having Satish, who will be joining. So over to you, Venkat. And thank you, judges, for I was giving us the opportunity to present. So thank you very much.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Venkat Krishna. You can all call me Venkat. I'm the transformation lead for this particular program. I'm also data practitioner, being part of this particular transformation. I belong to digital analytics practice. So we have a team of 4 to 5 people who will be part of this particular presentation. And the presentation is broken down into 3 parts. We'll have Asda team, the business leader coming in and setting the context around what are the business challenges in Asda when we started this particular program. And then we'll talk about the journey itself, the second part. And third part would be how did we drive business outcomes and innovation, which will again be presented by the Asda team. So we're broken down into 3 parts. So I'm not sure if the rest of the team have joined right now so that they can also introduce themselves. But it will be Kieran Holmes, who is a senior business manager who leads the pricing and promotions practice, who would be part of this particular presentation from Asda. Then Nathan Drake, the dev manager, who has been part of the technology transformation, and he's part of the data and insights group. So he will also join the presentation. And we'll have Satish, who is the program manager for this particular program, brought in the team and worked collaboratively with the entire team. He would also join. So yeah, so this pretty much would be the team.
Okay, good. You will have 2 more minutes, and then we will be starting at 11:35 UK time sharp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can wait for 2 more minutes.
Project the screen. Is that okay, Shubham?
Yeah, definitely. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yes.
So tell me when you want to start, because I'll need to start you're on a stopwatch then.
No problem. We have Satish also in the line, just waiting for as the team. Just give us a couple of minutes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You have a couple of minutes, yeah.
Yeah, Kieran is here. I already admitted Kieran. Yes, we have Kieran.
Just a learning from our previous session. If anyone has a weak internet connection, I would request their videos to be off so that you are really audible. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, definitely. So we can have Kieran to introduce. Kieran, can you please introduce? We were actually waiting for you. Hello.
Kieran, you are muted. You need to unmute yourself first.
I cannot unmute.
I think you have a co-host role.
Yeah.
So
now it's okay.
I was muted by the host, so I couldn't unmute. But,
okay. Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm Kieran Holmes. I'm the senior manager for pricing and promotions for data and capability at Asda. So have we done introductions? Sorry, we're going straight into the presentation.
This is just the introduction happening. Shubham, do you want me to start your session now?
Yeah. I believe we should start. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So your time starts now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So so you can see I won't go too much detail about kind of all the points on the top row here. I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of Asda. It's a major supermarket in the UK. The key thing to take from the points above is kind of scale, really, in terms of data. So you can see kind of 18 million consumers weekly, typically putting in kind of 20 items in their basket. So in terms of data that we collect on that, it's kind of millions of rows of data that we are reviewing. We also collect as a pricing team our competitor prices for our key competitors. We have in food about 10 different competitors, and non-food a similar amount, and they range up to kind of like 40,000 different individual items that we collect prices for and match to our own prices on a daily basis. So again, massive scale, and that's one of the kind of the challenges for us. We'll go through kind of some of the changes we go through the slides, but just to set the kind of scene, I guess. I joined Asda about two and a half years ago. And for the last sort of 18 months, we've been working on this transformation project, which the key thing is getting all the data in one place and one version of the truth. So the challenges for us before is kind of the data is held by a third party, and all of the kind of analytical capability, if you like, was provided by this third party. And that provided us with challenges in terms of accessing the data, manipulating the data, and analysing it alongside other key bits of data. So, for example, if we wanted to look at something basic like a trended price index gap versus our sales, that was difficult to do because our sales were kind of held internally and our price gap data was held externally. So it typically involved downloading into a spreadsheet and manipulating in a spreadsheet, which, as you can imagine, is you're limited quite significantly in terms of what you can actually view in spreadsheets. And also it was time consuming, complex, multiple versions of the truth, and quite often inaccurate as well, and difficult to get to kind of difficult to put kind of exceptions and governance principles in place as well because of the structure of the data. So yeah, the challenge was really how do we do that in a more automated fashion and get better insights more quickly, essentially is where we're trying to get to. So that's me for the first slide. So we can move on to the second slide.
So Shubham, can you move on to the next one? Yeah. So when we started this particular transformation, as Kiran has mentioned 18 months back, it was not just about data or insights. The fact that Asda's competitive advantage is based on the pricing data and insights. The fact that their competitive advantage is all about how do I get the pricing right so that my customers would enable, and the fact that the motto of Asda is all about save money, live better. We want to derive that and make sure that Asda becomes insights-driven organization, not just any other retailer. To do that, I think the first thing we wanted to do make sure was, I think when we started this journey, they were pretty much spending a lot of their effort around. In fact, we were spending a lot of the effort around data itself, collating the data. The fact that there was a significant reliance on the data to consolidate the data. So if you see the left-hand side, the pyramid itself, the bottom part of the pyramid was significant effort where we were getting the data itself. And the second part was checking the data was right for pricing insights or any of the insights. So the fact that 80% of the time was going on in data engineering and data operations, insights was taking only pretty much 20% of the effort, which means that we are not giving enough effort to get or derive insights. And the major part of it is speed to market was very important in terms of developing pricing promotion and providing pricing insights. The whole focus was how do we move that to what we call it as inversion of pyramid on the right hand side, where we want to spend more time on insights and less time on data operations and data engineering. What we have done around that was, from a insight standpoint, how do we drive real-time insights was one of the capability we want to bring to. The second was, while doing so, can we get also the voice of consumer, the 360-degree feedback of consumer itself, whether the pricing promotions are attractive to the consumers or not, and taking that feedback was very important. So that was another capability which was needed from an inversion of pyramid standpoint. And then subsequently bring in automation, AI, and cognitive solutions to drive data operations and data engineering so that there is no significant effort. But this is not just the technology transformation, it was a people transformation, it was process transformation and the technology transformation. So what does it entail? What does the transformation entail is what you would see in the next slide. Shubham, next slide, please. So what we focused around this particular inversion of pyramid was 5 parts or 5 key areas. The first was stakeholder engagement. It was important for business to understand and appreciate this particular transformation and make sure that they are extremely engaged, which needed a significant change management process for us to move from apprehension of their previous processes to, persuade, adopt and appreciate the entire change of this particular inversion of pyramid, which is very important. The second was the whole cultural shift of moving towards agile ways of working, lean engineering principles. How do we incubate, biz DevOps was a second process transformation we looked at. The people competencies was not just about bringing technical competencies, but also how do we drive engineering competencies and behavioral competencies together and make sure that the business is part of this particular transformation was very important in the way we constructed the people processes. Fourth was all about how do we get the cutting edge technologies itself so that we could expedite bringing the data and preparing the data so that you have enough time for creation of insights itself, which was the fourth focus area. And fifth was it's all about designing right, moving towards what is my system of engagement, trying to understand my consumer better, and then working backwards and making sure that the entire digital processes are automated. So that was the fifth capabilities we have brought in as part of the transformation. So moving on to the next slide, please. To do that, what we did was for us to engage with the stakeholder, we created an engagement model, which is 2x2 quadrant. What you see is a 4-quadrant approach. The right side quadrant is where the innovation starts and the innovation at scale happens. And that's where the business gets involved in terms of what kind of capabilities are needed to drive my pricing insights and insights in general. And as we move towards left-hand side, it's all about how do I, create a strong platform mindset and platforms so that you don't have to spend a lot of efforts on creating insights itself, which is on the left-hand side. So this is the transformation where business differentiation was on the right-hand side, the platform mindset and creation of product, from a application ecosystem to creating a product and platform mindset was on the left-hand side from a process standpoint was very important for us to do. Shubham, next slide, please. So what you would see here is in terms of team composition, we have moved on to feature-based, product capability development rather than looking at program or projects in general. What we have also transformed into what we call it as data ops principles, business aligned data ops, which is more around having to spend, having not to spend a lot around knowledge management, where you bring in principles like data literacy to drive the transformation. The third is all about, bringing product owners from business and business being the forefront in terms of this transformation, driving the business outcome. The fact that we are talking about insights driven organization, it's all about how do we use insights to drive business outcomes and improve the revenue was the focus. In terms of ways of working, it was all about how do we drive agile principles and bring in agile as a ways of working rather than looking at in one project and one particular product. It's all about how we bring in organizational change towards enterprise agility, which was very important. And from an automation standpoint, not having to work around data engineering and data operations was very important from a process reimagination standpoint. Shubham, next one, please. So I'll hand over to Satish to talk about some of the people competencies we have brought in. As I've said, we looked at engineering, technical and behavioral competencies. Shubham, you can do a double click of this, further clicks.
Thanks, Venkat. While Venkat talked about how did we invert the pyramid and how did we bring in new platforms and help business drive more insights, one of the key things that we also focused on is how do we drive change through bringing in the right people, right? So while we can bring in technical people to work on the platform, what is more important here is we need to bring in engineers who have the right mindset to work along with the business, because we are not moving. Our focus was not moving to a DevOps or a data ops ways of working, but more aligned to a business DevOps model, wherein we are creating a feature teams focused on creating features or outcomes for a business, and we in the process engage business as part of the squads. And in business, for example, Kiran in the call is part of the pricing squad that we have. He drives what is the backlog that he wants the squad to deliver, what is the feature that he wants to deliver sprint on sprint, right? So that's the model that we wanted to go towards. And when we started this journey, we wanted to also bring in the people change in the program. So, and one of the innovations that we brought in here was to conduct hackathons, because we were moving from, say, a waterfall model or a quasi-agile model to an agile model. We also are moving towards bringing in people or engineers who have the mindset to work with analysts, business people, etc., etc.
Last 5 minutes for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
We don't have
thanks.
much to cover anyway. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so what we thought was we will conduct hackathons where the business and IT teams, customers, when I say IT team, IT teams of the Asda themselves will come collaborate with the HCL team in Bangalore and set up the teams there, right? So we flew in people from Asda to Bangalore multiple times, conducted multiple hackathons to agree on a right operating model and right squad construct before we finalize the team. And what we also did in the process was we moved away from the we moved away from the pyramid structure into a diamond structure in terms of mapping the resources. In the typical organizations, we see that, in a triangle-based model, we have more of advanced beginners and novice being run in the projects. But then when we move to a diamond structure, we get more of competent people and proficient people working, and they bring in that experience of working directly with the business. So that's the innovation that we brought in terms of identifying people to drive this change in Asda. Yeah, move on to the next slide, Shubham. Yeah, and in terms of the platform itself, what you see on the screen is how this entire project was being run before we transformed the program, right? So there were so many handoffs that you see here. Data comes in multiple systems through multiple formats, mainly on Excel sheets. We then have to do a standardization of the data, duplication, deduplication of the data, etc., before Kiran gets hold of the data. And then he finally makes his changes before it sends it to the pricing team to finally price the product. So from there, how did we transform to the new architecture? So we transform the process, we transform the people, we also transform the architecture of the platform. So that's what you see in the screen. Over to the next slide, Shubham. Yeah, I will hand it over to Nathan now to talk about the innovation and the business outcomes that came from the program.
Thank you, Satish. First of all, apologies for jumping on late. Ironically, I was having technical issues and had to do a restart on my PC. Usually happens at the most inopportune of moments. Yeah, so I predominantly worked on a lot of the background stuff in the previous slide as the development manager and supported the resource and worked with our HCL colleagues to help build the infrastructure, if you will, that supports the end products that the business use, that Kieran uses. And part of that process, what's great for us to see from a technical point of view are the benefits that Kieran and his team are receiving from that. Some of those key areas are particularly in innovation. So we're getting greater insights in customer behavior. We can now start to use the data to understand when and how customers are switching between their products based on any price changes that we may make or promotions that we may push through to them. We can also see linkages between different types of items and how a typical customer who may buy baked beans, I think the term is like a halo effect. So if someone buys baked beans, what also are the typical products that they might buy during that same trip, for example. Can also see price elasticity. So we can see demand around price change, and we can see where that declines or increases depending on the changes in price that we make and how customers are reacting to that. And we could also see the impact on our competitors and see what their price movements are and how that has an impact, and also how we can kind of take heed from that and influence the way that we're working as a team. And we've got a huge amount of historical information which feeds into a lot of our predictive analytics around predicting future activity and the impact on the price gap. So all this feeds into some huge business outcomes. So we're able to contribute and have an impact on the sales revenue, support generating more sales through those improvements in understanding the price elasticity and customer responses to promotions, etc. We can use the data much quicker to understand what our consumers are doing and react to that. It also gives us a lot more insight to work on our price modeling and understand what works best from that point of view, and feed that into the business team and work quicker across the teams to implement any changes. And a very simple one is cost impact. So by bringing all of this in-house and severing the need for third parties to do all this for us, that in itself saves us money, whilst also as an aside to all the good work that the pricing team do to kind of use this data going forwards.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the time is up in terms of your presentation time.
yes.
Sorry, I had to close this because we need to give equal amount of time to all the participants. So are you okay for a Q&A on this now?
Yeah. In fact,
yeah.
that was the last slide.
Great. So my first question to the team out there, the HCL and the Asda team, is that I understand the principle that you wanted to invert the pyramid in terms of the time attributed to the insights part versus the data modeling part and the data harmonization part. But can you share with us anything specific that you did or any new technology that you deployed to reduce your time in terms of your efforts in the data harmonization part or the data curation part? Because at the end of the day, the pricing aspect will be hinged on to your credibility of the data, the cleanliness of the data point, and how much seamlessly it is integrated in a real-time environment. So did you use any newer technologies, any newer digital technologies, or was it? So I just wanted to know that first.
So let me take that. I think when you looked at the transformation, the fact that we were relying on the third-party data significantly to create that pricing insights, it was important for us to create a strong APIs where we can go to competitors' online portals and get that data real time, rather than having to rely on third-party data for that particular information. So what we did is we brought in, one is we built the APIs to bring in that particular data from the third-party websites. The second is we've also created a strong data orchestration frameworks on Microsoft technologies to start with, which gave us a significant near real-time data or a real-time data for us to consolidate. That was a second part of the transformation around data engineering. When you talk about the pyramid itself, where we don't have to rely on three or four particular data sources to get the information and get consolidated, and was taking almost four days to consolidate, we were able to bring that down to probably 15 to 20 minutes for us to get the data and consolidate. So that was a significant transformation. The second is we have also brought in biz DevOps tooling. The DevOps tooling for, when you talk about DevOps, it's not a typical CI/CD process for data. So we have to look at data integration from a continuous orchestration standpoint, continuous data testing standpoint, continuous quality checks as it goes down to downstream. So all of the tooling, what we inherently had part of our solutions was brought in to orchestrate that and expedite that part of journey through CI/CD processes. So we brought in, biz DevOps through the tooling and solutions around that. And finally, the platform, the data platform, was built on fast track data platform on Microsoft, which also had its inherent capabilities of bringing the data much faster and easy to model the data in the platform itself, and easy to manage the platform itself. So that was another innovation. Apart from this, we have also brought in cognitive solution, AI solutions to enable all of the machine learning based self-healing data management solutions. Like if there is a missing data, you can use machine learning to impute the missing data or find out incorrect data. So these are some of the technology transformations we have brought in.
Let me understand from a digital experience perspective. Now, since you're able to crunch larger amount of data in a relatively much shorter span time, have you intertwined it with the pricing elasticity models, which were possibly in-house within Asda, and merged the two to create a differentiated customer experience on the floor? And what I mean to say is the Asda retail floor. How are you doing it?
So
what is the different customer experience?
Okay, it's a two-step process. One is, as I've said, the fact that once you invert the pyramid, you had enough time and effort to also look at what are the peripherals in driving pricing insights. So as we have said, the biggest important capability which we have brought in, apart from intertwining with price elasticity, was ability to understand the consumer better. So getting a 360-degree feedback of consumer as you run the promotion was very important. That was the add-on capability that we have brought in. But Nathan, if you want to add on to this further, or Kieran, if you want to add on, please.
Yeah, I think the other thing we've introduced is Power BI as well. So in terms of like an end user kind of output and how they interact with the data. So it's kind of really simplified. I think the first and the most important thing is just getting data into people's fingertips. So historically, they'd have to come to us with a request. We'd have to go to a third party, download the data, put it in a spreadsheet and send it on. So just really simplistically getting that data at their fingertips has massively helped, but also combining the different data sets. So there's two sort of key fundamental bits for us on this project. It's all the data in one place and one version of the truth. And so we've worked with different teams around the business. So if it's sales, for example, we've worked with the finance team to make sure that the sales number we have is the kind of reported accurate number. And then we can integrate that into our reporting and we can do analysis. So whether it's kind of basket penetration or elasticity models aligned to our data that we own, which is a pricing data. So we have done that, and there's a couple of examples where we've kind of been able to feed that back into the teams or give them access directly to those reports. But I think one of the most fundamental thing, or the best examples of that, is actually the way that we've approached that and the tools that we've developed has led to the creation of a brand new team on the commercial floor, which is, and there's one coming on the customer floor as well, which is calling it a commercial transformation team. And they're essentially taking kind of like the model that we've done around getting the data in one place, putting Power BI on top of it, the look and feel of the reports and how the users integrate with them, and they're kind of bolting on more kind of commercial led commercial focused reports as well. So I think that is probably a better, almost kind of a bigger example of how kind of it's fundamentally changed how the end users using data. Does that make sense? Answer your question?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.